Om Sahanavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us. May he guide us and give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Om peace, peace, peace. And good evening, and a very blessed Durga Puja Navaratri season to you. We'll be celebrating Durga Puja tomorrow at Santa Barbara Temple, so hopefully you can go or join online. There are many ways of celebrating Navaratri. If you look at the different areas of India, they have different interpretations, slightly different interpretations and different symbolisms and different types of ceremonies and so forth. One common way is to have 3 days for Saraswati, 3 days for Mother Lakshmi, and 3 days for either Parvati or Kali. Another way is to have a different aspect of the Divine Mother on each of the 9 days. In many parts, the general theme is the victory of good over evil, the Divine Mother taking away the evil influences, especially as symbolized by the Asura Mahisasura, who is often called the buffalo demon, because that was one of his many forms, but he was able to take many forms. And so the Divine Mother had to take many forms in order to battle him. We are going to be reading some passages from a lecture that Swami Abhedananda gave. We read part of it a year ago, I'm sure you all remember. So we're going to continue with that. So if you would begin, see, was it as primordial? As the primordial, is that where we start?
Microphone. Is the primordial energy personified? Goddess Durga created all worldly things. The very power of hers, which has created animals, has also grown and sustained vegetables and plants. Hence her name has been Sakaban, the herb-bearing or the herb-nourishing. On the first day of Durga worship, it is the custom to pay regard to an image of a goddess made of the leaves of 9 plants and supposed to represent Durga. The said image is called Navapatrika, commonly called Kalabao, or the goddess Durga in her 9 forms. This Navapatrika consists of varied types of fruits, roots, corns, and flowers. These are, that is, the plants such as the plantain, the tuber, the turmeric, the nutmeg, the branches of bell tree and ashoka tree, the arum and the paddy plants, and the white Aparajita creeper. All these, which bound together, give to the rise of the Navapatrika, which may be called a symbol of agricultural wealth. On the bright 5th waxing in Magha, goddess Saraswati is invoked by every Hindu. This practice is in vogue for a long time, though exactly when it first started has not yet been ascertained. Some Puranas hold that it was Sri Krishna who introduced this ceremony and prescribed this day for beginning one's learning thus. This sacred, bright 5th day is called Sri Pachami, the day of Sri or Goddess Lakshmi. An inquiry as to why the day has been so called informs us that Lakshmi was married to Skanda on that day. Later in course of time, the day became fixed for Goddess Saraswati instead of Goddess Lakshmi.
All right. Now this number 9 comes up a lot. Of course, at Navaratri, it means 9 days, and then we're looking at 9 fruits and so forth. And the one explanation that I found for why 9 is the sacred mother number is that when you have a decimal system, which of course was introduced by the Hindus, that's where we get our decimal system with our 9 digits plus a 0. If you take any number and add up the digits, you can cast out nines. And so any number that adds up to, where the digits add up to 9, is a multiple of 9. And so it's sort of like a regenerating number. It sort of regenerates itself. If you multiply 9 by any number, you get another number whose digits add up to 9 again. So you can reduce it back down to the basic form. All right, so now we're going to read a little bit more about Goddess Saraswati.
Who this goddess Saraswati is and how old she is can be ascertained from the Vedas, which tell us that she is a Vedic deity. In the Rig Veda, female deities are quite few in number. Usha was the foremost among these Vedic female deities. Next to her was goddess Saraswati. The early meaning of the word Saras was brightness, so that Saraswati implied abounding in brightness. This wondrously lustrous deity, incorporeal and personifying learning and wisdom, had at first neither a female nor a male appearance. The Vedas gave Saraswati various names, such as goddess Vak, Bharati, and call her Saraswati, implying she's the daughter and also wife of Surya, the sun god. Again, on the same ground, the Puranas describe her as the daughter of Brahma and give her the names Gayatri and Satsarupa. The Machaparuna says that she was the only daughter of the 10 children begotten of the mold of Brahma in the beginning of creation. That she was so faultlessly beautiful that her exquisite charm and loveliness intoxicated Brahma, who grew head and hands on 4 sides and above so as to gaze at her and repeatedly exclaimed, "Ah, the beauty! Ah, the beauty!" He then made her his own wife, and thus could not save himself from the sin of having sexual relations with his own daughter. The carrier of Brahma was the swan, which therefore became the carrier of his wife. Saraswati, too. In the Markandeya Purana, the consort of Brahma is described as being born by a swan. Thus, but in the Deccan, they picture Saraswati riding on the peacock and not on the swan.
Yeah, that was a footnote. It doesn't seem to, I don't know where the footnote came from, though. We lost the asterisk, but all right.
Should we skip over?
Yeah, good. Just continue with regarding. But just the next line.
Regarding the origin of Saraswati, the Brahma Valvarta Purana, Vaishnava text, says that she sprang from the mouth of Sri Krishna, with Paramatman personified, and that at his command she became the spouse of Vishnu. But Vishnu had 2 other wives, Lakshmi and Ganga. The latter, moved by a fit of rage, cursed Saraswati that she would be turned into a river. Afterwards, at the behest of Vishnu, one part of Saraswati became Brahma's wife, and her other part became the river Saraswati.
So these are a lot of just interesting stories, but you have to look at these symbolically. These aren't actual events up there in the clouds somewhere. They're just symbolic. And so with Brahma being the creative aspect, it follows that Saraswati also is the creative aspect. And being a river is also very significant of being creative, because it's rivers that create civilizations, basically. All the great civilizations depend on water, and water is most dependably gotten from rivers. And so this connection between a river and the life-giving goddess is extremely common. And the idea of brightness, of course, also light is another life-giving element. So you've got water and light. You've got the 2 main elements for life itself, which is the main creative energy in the universe. She's also usually associated with the sattva guna, which is the most revealing of the gunas. The sattva guna is the one that most closely reveals the true nature of Brahman. The 3 gunas all hide the nature of Brahman, but the sattva guna reveals something of its true nature. In the famous example of the rope and the snake, it said that Thomas makes you fail to see it as it is, as a rope. Rajas makes you project some other idea about it, namely that you think it's a snake. But Sattva makes it so that you don't see something ridiculous. You don't see it as a Mack truck or a mountain or something. I mean, the size and shape of the rope comes through. It's revealed through the Sattva guna. And so she's the most revealing. And so ordinary knowledge in the normal sense of the word is somewhat revealing of the true nature of Brahman. So our scholarly learning, the Vedas, the hymns, all of our creative activities, music, writing, art, so forth, all of those things reveal Brahman's nature to a certain extent, more than the other gunas do. So that's the idea of this goddess Saraswati. All right, let's continue.
In many suktas of the Rig Veda, there are hymns in honor of Saraswati and Sarasvat. The word Saraswati stands for a river with abundant current of water. White in color, this river is the giver of food, the goddess personified. It is stated in the Rig Veda, this means, O white-complexioned goddess Saraswati, it's through your divine grace that human beings get different kinds of food. So give us food, protection, and knowledge. In the Vedic area, Saraswati was not simply a river carrying water, it was also the river of food and the bestower of wealth resulting from sacrificial rites. Regarding this, the Rig Veda says, she, the goddess, is the producer of truthful statements and the preceptress of the intelligent people. In addition, the Vedas also say Saraswati was the inspirer of all kinds of knowledge. Undoubtedly, therefore, she was the goddess of learning, even though she was a river.
Yeah, of course, if you've seen a river that has a lot of rapids in it, it does look white. You have sort of a white foaminess on top of the water. So that the idea of a white river comes from this idea that you have these rapids and lots of foamingness of the water on the top. This season, of course, is also a typical harvest season. The fall season is when many crops are being harvested, and so this connection between the harvest and the goddess Saraswati is also one that comes up at this time of year. It's interesting, you know, there are actually 4 Navaratris. The fall one is the most popular and the most widely celebrated, but there's also a spring Navaratri, and then there's 2 other Navaratris which fall on the equinoxes, or excuse me, on the solstices. This is an equinox celebration. The others 2 would be the summer and the winter solstice, and those are not as widely celebrated. But each one is a celebration of 9 days, celebrating the goddess energy of 9. All right, let's continue.
In the Vedic times, Saraswati was a big river on whose banks were performed all the holiest sacrifices by the Aryan rishis. There, chanting the sacred verses of the Vedas, they would invoke and worship various deities. While the Aryans lived on the banks of this river, there occurred the gradual efflorescence of their religion, knowledge, ethics, and arts. It was through the grace of this river that their agriculture and commerce expanded and their social life got organized. In the Vedic age, therefore, Saraswati, though a river, was regarded as the presiding goddess of all branches of knowledge, such as fine arts, mechanics, and the art of music and dancing. Later, when the image of Saraswati was conceived, the symbols of the river, the water, the lotus, and the swan were retained, while at the same time in her hands were placed a book, a pen, and a veena, and the complexion of her body was made gleaming white, suggestive of pure illuminating knowledge or wisdom. Being thus identified with the goddess of speech, personifying the Sabda Brahman, the Logos of the Word of God incarnate, she began to be adored by men. Two things emanate from the Sabda Brahman. One suggestive of sound, the other suggestive of letter. That is why in the hands of Saraswati are placed a veena, symbolizing the first, and a book symbolizing the second. In the Greek mythology, Minerva, identified with Pallas Athene, the daughter of Zeus, the creator of the universe, is the deity presiding over all fields of knowledge and arts. She is associated with the veena, vamshi, and other musical instruments, and with songs, poems, and different branches of fine arts in the same manner. Goddess Saraswati, adored by the Aryans of the Vedic age, is being worshipped by the Hindus as the queen of all these musical accomplishments and arts. The Vedic time witnessed no image of Saraswati. In the Buddhist time, that's nearly 500 years before Christ, various sorts of images of the Hindu gods and goddesses were conceived and molded along with the different mounds of stupas and statues of Buddha. It is said that the Buddhists, after making the images of such Hindu gods, Indra, Brahma, and the like, would place these under the feet of Buddha so as to prove the superiority of Gautama Buddha to these gods. In the scheme of Mahayana Buddhism, Indra, in the name of Rajapani, Vishnu, in the name of Avalokitesvara, and Brahma, in the name of Bodhisattva Manjari, or Manjughosha, continued to be venerated and worshipped. But the consort of the said Manjari remained as before, the Hindu deity Saraswati, playing on a veena and personifying knowledge or wisdom.
Well, this paragraph goes on forever again. Again, this idea of sound as being one of the basic components of the universe, representing vibrational energies, and how the universe is really made up of vibration. And then, of course, speech is one of the obvious ways we make sound, and music and singing is another obvious way that we make sound. And we talked about the last time how the reason sound is such a wonderful symbol of vibrational energy for us is because we can both perceive it and create it. You probably all remember that Swami Vivekananda invoked the goddess Saraswati, Vak Devi, Vak meaning speech, before he gave his famous speech at the opening of the Parliament of his opening speech at the Parliament of the Religions, which of course was an enormous success and placed him at the forefront as being the most popular speaker of the Parliament. So we have Goddess Saraswati to thank for Swami Vivekananda's success there. Let's see. Yeah, this is interesting historical things that Swami Abhedananda has presented. You don't find this kind of thing anywhere else that I know of. I've never read about the Buddhists trying to prove the superiority of Buddha by putting these images underneath the statue of Buddha. But anyway, it's we can read this all just with the interest in how these things play out historically. All right, well, let's continue.
In some places, the Buddhistic image of Saraswati, the goddess of learning, is found holding a veena and riding on a lion. In certain other places, she is pictured as sitting on a lotus with her right foot on another full-blown lotus, and with a lion lying below her. The present-day Hindus commonly believe that Saraswati and Lakshmi are the daughters of Shiva. This belief is approved of by the Kurma, Naradiya, and Dharma Puranas. In the Devi Purana, Saraswati is again described as the daughter of Shiva and Durga. The same idea has been subscribed to by the Kumavatantra, the Brihadarayaka Tantra, and the Saradataka Tantra. Further, in the Mukhandeya Purana, Saraswati has been called Vishnu Jiva, the tongue of Vishnu. It is on the original idea of the Devi Purana and Tantras that Saraswati is the daughter of Shiva and Durga, together with the image of the latter is being worshipped in Bengal. In Tantra, Saraswati, or the goddess of speech, has been given a new lunar phase on her forehead and has been depicted as being white in color and sitting on a white lotus. In some places, she has been referred to as having 3 eyes and a smiling countenance, while in some other places she is described as being with 4 arms, which hold a book, a rosary, Bhakti-mudra, and a jar full of nectar. In some places, again, the goddess is given in her hands a string of beads, a book, a veena, and a lotus, and is borne by a swan in some of the tantras. Saraswati is regarded as matrika, composed in 50 different letters. In some places, again, she has been called Tarijata Saraswati. Thus, according to the Hindu scriptures, goddess Saraswati from the Rig Vedic period onwards is being worshipped in different forms and manners in India.
And of course, these images, these murtis of deities, are designed to invoke certain energies within ourselves as we look at them, just as if you looked at a yantra, a geometric design, or an image of a goddess. These energies come to mind. So the energies of learning music, art, reading, doing japam, all of these things come to mind when you see the image of the goddess Saraswati holding these various things in her hands, the books, the mala, and the veena, and so forth. The lotus, of course, is a symbol of the purity within the world. It's just as the sattva guna is the most revealing guna, the lotus is said to symbolize being able to be in the world of Maya, the world of the 3 gunas, and yet floating above it and staying above it. It comes out of the mud. All of these things come out of Maya, but the lotus sits on top and blooms, and all of the mud and the water and everything is repelled away from the petals of the lotus. None of it clings to it. And so that's the metaphor of how we should be. We obviously are in the world, we can't get out of it until the body drops off and this Atman is freed and liberated. But while we're in it, we have to try to allow the worldliness to sort of flow off of us and rise above it and float along the top of it, rather than getting mired in the mucky mud. All right, let's continue.
Goddess Saraswati is decorated by all things white and colorless, the whiteness symbolizing the light of knowledge, pure and serene. All oblations offered to her are also suggestive of the gleaming white. These are white flowers, white sandal paste, white ornaments, cured thickened milk, butter, parched corn, white paddy, white molasses, white cakes, and the like. Even today, the Hindus offer all these as oblations to Goddess Saraswati. The hymn in honor of the goddess runs like this. The seat of Goddess Saraswati is a white lotus, and her carrier a white swan. She's dressed in white and adorned with white ornaments. Her glowing white body is smeared with white sandal paste. Following is the hymn one recites, while with the hands joined together, one offers flowers to the lotus-like feet of Goddess Saraswati, personifying the knowledge of Brahman. Now, everything white suggests the idea of nescienceless, transcendental knowledge, which knows no categories or adjuncts of time, space, and causation. But yet Saraswati has been described as goddess, learning, and eternal wisdom. Besides, she's been called the Bhadrakali, the tantric goddess.
Bhadrakali. Yes, I had hoped to have some music for us tonight, but that unfortunately didn't manifest. So, and that was the end of that particular lecture. But I have some more information about Navaratri and Durga and so forth that we can look at for the remainder of our period here. As I mentioned, it's celebrated in different ways in different parts of India. And often, you know, the color white is actually composed of all the colors together form white. And if you put white light through a prism, it breaks up into the rainbow of colors. And so it's interesting that even though we usually think of 7 colors in the rainbow, these 9 colors are what they use for the different days of Navaratri. The first day is usually symbolized by the white color itself, and the second day with red, the third day with a deep indigo blue, the fourth day is symbolized with yellow light, and then the fifth day is green, and the sixth day is gray. The seventh day is kind of a golden orange, and the eighth day is a deep blue-green, and the ninth day is a very orange-red. And so those are the colors which symbolize the 9 different days. Then, let's see. I guess this gets a little detailed, so I'll skip that. It's a long, long, long hymn. I don't think we have quite time for that. Here's one of the shorter hymns. May Goddess Saraswati, who is fair like the jasmine-colored moon, and whose pure white garland is like frosty dewdrops, who is adorned in radiant white attire, on whose beautiful arms rests the Veena, and whose throne is a white lotus, who is surrounded and respected by the gods, protect me. May you fully remove my lethargy, sluggishness, and ignorance. Of course, Saraswati is often worshipped by students and also craftsmen and businessmen. All worship Saraswati. Anyone that's doing any kind of creative activity or learning activity will make offerings to the goddess Saraswati and sing her praise in order to have a greater success at their undertakings. Now, the various goddesses, if you're in the parts of India that celebrate a different aspect of the goddess on each day, the first day it's goddess Shalputri. Shalputri is the daughter of Himalaya and thus is called Shalputri. She is also worshipped as Parvati or Himvati. The first day of Navaratri is dedicated to the worship of her. Devotees offer pure desi ghee on the foot of the deity. An offering of pure ghee is said to bless the devotee with a life free of disease and illness. So you see all these different aspects of the goddess can be personified by a separate deity, but they're all really just part of the same great Devi. But since the great Devi is really embodiment of all possible energies in the universe, it's helpful to break it down into smaller bites so that we can understand it a little bit more clearly. So on the second day, the aspect of Brahmacharini is celebrated. Mother Brahmacharini is worshipped on the second day of and the goddess Brahmacharini is a lover of simple foods and offerings. Devotees serve a bhog of sugar and fruits. This increases the longevity of the family members. So the goddesses worship in this way are also in a very practical sense. They're the ones that help us through our daily activities of life. Here we all are kind of stuck grinding through the realm of Maya and working on our spiritual practices. But in order to do that, we have to have the ordinary things in life. We have to have normal food, we have to have good health, and so forth. So the first day we were making offerings to be free of disease and illness. And then we're making offerings to have the longevity of the various family members, so we have a supporting family that exists for us. Then on the third day, it's Chandraghanta. Mata Chandraghanta is worshipped on the third day of Navaratri. The half form of the moon exists on the head of this Mata. She rides on a lion and is believed to destroy all evil and wickedness. The ferocious goddess is pleased by offerings of milk, sweets. So again, we have to be able to defend ourselves, and so the mother energy represents that defensiveness of the mother. Swami Swahananda, who was the head here for many, many years, when he was asked about why Mother Durga is so ferocious and why Mother Kali seems kind of ferocious. And he would say, well, you don't want a mamby-pamby mother. You want a strong mother that's going to protect you. And of course, there are many incidences where both human mothers and animal mothers will defend their young to the death with great ferociousness. And so this is one of the ideas of one of the aspects of the mother. The goddess Kushmanda is worshipped on the fourth day. Let's see, what day is this? Is this how many days are we into this? I can't remember. How many?
She said 6.
6, okay. Okay, the universe was originally a dark place, and it was this goddess who produced the cosmic egg with her smile. Devotees worship the goddess by observing fasts and offering malpa as the bhog. Oh, I meant to mention that the moon, of course, is often represented or connected with some sort of goddesses. If you look at the worldwide mythologies, almost every single culture has the moon as a feminine deity. The only exception to that I can think of, there's one sect in Japan that doesn't have the moon associated with a goddess. But most of it's a goddess. And one way to think of that is that the light of Brahman is like a million suns or billion suns, an infinite amount of light, a blinding amount of light. And so it's extremely difficult for us to perceive it. But the moon is this beautiful reflection of the sun's light. And so the goddess energy is much easier for us to relate to and to worship, especially as we are here as embodied beings. All right, so Skandamata is the next day, the 5th day. She is seated on a lotus, but a lion is also her vehicle, and her offering is bananas. So these offerings are made to keep the devotees, again, in good health. So another offering for good health. Katyayani is the 6th form and is worshipped on the 6th day. She is the daughter of the sage Katyanan, and her devotees offer honey as prasad to the goddess. Her blessings fill their lives with sweetness and help them to get rid of bitter troubles. So to transmute bitterness into sweetness, we offer to goddess Katyayani. And then goddess Kalaratri is the fierce goddess, fierce on the outside. She bestows her true devotees protection from evil powers and spirits. Devotees offer jaggery, or sweets made from jaggery. I think that's a kind of molasses, is it not? Jaggery, yeah. A kind of crude syrup from the sugar cane. And the prasad is also given to Brahmins along with the dakshina, or the offerings. And of course, Kalaratri would represent also goddess Kali. And in the Chandi story, goddess Kali is the one that has to manifest in order to fight the great demon Raktabija. Raktabija has this boon that every drop of his blood turns into another demon. So if you strike him with an arrow and he starts to bleed, then every one of those drops simply creates another demon that you've got to destroy. And so it's Mother Kali that is called upon because she can lap up all of the drops of blood before they hit the ground and before they manifest into another demon. And she can swallow these demons whole so none of the blood drops to the ground. So it's quite a fierce image in the Chandi of Mother Kali being able to conquer this incredible demon Raktabija. Goddess Mahagauri is celebrated on the 8th day. This mother is offered coconut as bhog. It is widely believed that donating coconuts to the Brahmins on Ashtami blesses a childless couple with a child. And on the final day, Siddhidatri is worshipped. Devotees offer a fast and offer sesame seeds. This is believed to protect the devotee and the family from unfortunate mishaps. So these are the various aspects. If you're doing a different deity on each day, these would be the different aspects of the mother that you would be worshiping. Of course, the Mother Durga, or the Great Devi, essentially represents all of those deities in one. And so many of us are doing extra Durga Japam during this time, which, again, as I said, represents all of the different mother energies. And so rather than worshiping each one individually, we get the benefit of worshiping all of them by repeating Mother Durga's name.
9 for the price of one. 9 for the price of one.
Yes, 9 for the price of 1. It's better than double mint gum. There you only get 2 in 1. Let's see what else might be interesting. Of course, Ramakrishna, his primary focus was Mother Kali, who is, again, a particular aspect of the Great Devi. But he did mention Durga in several places as well. In one place he says that if you are kind of held down by tamas, if you're kind of a tamasic devotee, he says, you can take the attitude of a tamasic bhakta, he says, and you say to yourself, I have repeated the hallowed name of Durga, and how shall I not be liberated? How can I be a sinner anymore? How can I be bound anymore simply by repeating the name of Durga? Then in another instant, he was introduced to a friend of Narendra who was an author, and Sri Ramakrishna talked with him about the metaphysical significance of Radha and Krishna. And the author said that Radha and Krishna were the supreme Brahman. Vishnu and Shiva and Durga and the other deities had sprung from them. This is a typical Vaishnava attitude. That's the beauty of Hinduism. Each sect looks upon a particular deity as the supreme and the others coming from it. And of course, Ramakrishna can take all of these views in and has no problem with any of them. Simply different ways of looking at it, looking at things from a different angle. So then he says, the master says, that is good. There are different aspects of Radha. In her seductive aspect, she is Chandrabali. In her aspect of love, she participated in Sri Krishna's Leela at Vrindavan. Nanda Ghosh, Krishna's foster father, had the vision of the eternal Radha. First is the seductive Radha, then the Radha of love. If you go further, you will see the eternal Radha. It is like taking off the layers of an onion, one by one. First the red layers, then the pink, then the white. Obviously, this is one of the red onions. Afterwards, very appropriate for the mother. And you don't find any more layers. Such is the nature of the eternal Radha, Radha the absolute. There, the discrimination following the process of not this, comes to an end. And so you see, he's always gets back to the basic root of the infinite oneness of the eternal truth that's behind all these different names and forms of the different deities. Doesn't matter which one you start with, you end up with the eternal oneness. Later on, Sri Ramakrishna was seated in his room in his usual blissful mood. Ishan had come from Calcutta. He had burning faith in God. He used to say, if a man leaves the house with the hallowed name of Durga on his lips, then Shiva himself protects him with his celestial weapons. Of course, in this center, we often have the habit of chanting Durga, 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 Durga as someone leaves the center. And now the master says, you have great faith, but I don't have so much, he says, and all laugh. God can be realized only through faith, he says. Then on the third day of the Durga Puja, the master had been awake in his room at Dakshineshwar since early morning. The morning worship of Kali in the Kali temple was over, and the orchestra had played the morning melodies in the Nahabat. Brahmins and gardeners, baskets in hand, were plucking flowers for the worship of the Divine Mother. Bhavanath, Baburam, Niranjan, and M had spent the night at Dakshineshwar, sleeping on the porch of the master's room. As soon as they awoke, they saw Sri Ramakrishna dancing in an ecstatic mood. He was chanting, "Victory to Mother Durga! Hallowed be the name of Durga." He looked like a child as he chanted the name of the blissful mother. After a few moments, he said, "Oh, the bliss of divine ecstasy! Oh, the bliss of divine drunkenness!" And again he goes, he repeats the idea of, I have uttered the name of God, how can I be a sinner? Imagine a man repeating the name of Hari day and night, and at the same time saying that he's a sinner. So saying, Sri Ramakrishna became overwhelmed with divine ecstasy. Of course, this would be in direct contrast to the general Christian idea that are always calling on Jesus, but always thinking of themselves as a sinner. If only I can pass away repeating Durga's name, how canst thou then, O Blessed One, withhold from me the deliverance, wretched though I may be? I have stolen a drink of wine, I may have stolen a drink of wine, or killed a child unborn, or slain a woman or a cow, or even caused a Brahman's death. But though it all be true, nothing of this can make me feel the least uneasy, for through the power of thy sweet name, my wretched soul may still aspire even to Brahmanhood. You know, the root word of Durga literally means fortress. And so as we do our Durga Japam, or worship Durga anytime during these 9 days or anytime during the year, or especially tomorrow if you're attending Durga Puja, you can think that this energy of Durga is creating this great spiritual fortress for you. You've created a fortress of protection against any kind of evil influences, that they can't harm you. They've completely been kept out of your area because of the name of Durga being chanted. We just have a couple minutes, so let's sit silently, and we can each do one round of Durga Japam in the last couple of minutes and feel that protective energy surrounding us as we do so. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Filled with Brahman are the things we see. Filled with Brahman are the things we see not. From out of Brahman floweth all that is. From Brahman all, yet is it still the same. Om, peace, peace, peace be with us all.